All right, ladies and gentlemen, Military Sunday Reminisce Day story part episode. What episode are we on right now? I don't even know. Okay, you know what we're going to talk about today? We're going to talk about how I received the Purple Heart. I get a lot of questions about this. Like, oh, Tyler, you have the Purple Heart. Do you want to talk about it? And yeah, you know, it's been long enough. I mean, it happened in 2013, so it's definitely been long enough that I can talk about it. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of tell you guys some of the stories and some of the things that led up to it. So what's funny is, if you know anything about being deployed, I was a combat engineer, so we did route clearance, right? So route clearance is basically, we had the trucks that could take IEDs, you know, explosion blast from IEDs, over years and years and years of evolution of that, you know, because, you know, I look back and like, my platoon sergeants that were like old heads turning into first sergeants, like they did route clearance in Humvees, soft shell Humvees. Like, that's insane. Like, it's real men, you know what I'm saying? A greater generation, if you will. But by the time I got to Afghanistan, for my first time in 2013, you know, we had like RGs with RPG cages, this thicker than this, bulletproof glass, like just everything. So the fact that my truck got cut in half and a bunch of us got injured was actually, you know, pretty intense. It speaks to the magnitude of the bomb. But basically, let me put this in perspective too. We'd go, you know, clear the route, and then the people behind us, you know, it'd be clear for them to drive through, right? So you want to clear the route for like infantry, you want to clear the route for like supply and mechanics, and you know, we can have freedom of movement and maneuver in that country. So what was crazy is, usually when you go on the routes, and they're called unimproved routes, they're dirt roads, we kind of took our time on it more. Those are the routes we got in firefights. Those are the routes we found a lot of IEDs. Those are the routes a lot of our trucks got blown up on in country, right? You know, I'd taken a couple IEDs, you know, to the truck because I was the lead gunner before even my truck got cut in half and I received the Purple Heart. So we saw IEDs all the time. But what was crazy about my personal experience when I got imploded, if you will, was we were on a route called Georgia West. Okay, it was a approved route. Okay, not an unimproved dirt road. It was, you know, hard asphalt street. And I want you to think of, like, typically when the Taliban like placed IEDs, if they did it in dirt, blew up a hole, or tried to like take out a tire or mess with our truck, or, you know, kind of ambush us on a dirt, you know, you can always just refill dirt, so it didn't really mess with the populace. But when they would try and mess with the asphalt road, then it would kind of mess with the actual community. So that's when our terp could like gain knowledge. They would tell them, they would like, I don't want these guys to ruin one of our only hardball roads, you know what I'm saying? So they even were more receptive. Like, it just really wasn't a common thing because they knew they would maybe get ratted out by the local community. So that was the already confusing part. So we always rode a little bit faster on those, you know, asphalt roads, if you will, because we kind of just were like, you know, we never saw one in my 10 months of being there, and you know, I got blown up towards the end of my deployment. And that's what's crazy. It's like we never saw one. We kind of, you know, we did that thing in the Army that, you know, you call complacency. We were super complacent, and I was the lead gunner, but I was behind the two Husky drivers. Now, mind you, when I got blown up later, one of the Husky drivers met me in the room, and you know, he started to cry, and he just was like, I can't believe I missed that. And I just told him, like, bro, there's no way. Like, I have no guilt, no animosity towards you. I love you. Like, I understand accidents happen. It's like, that's why we deployed. That's why we're soldiers. And then recently, actually, the other Husky driver hit me up on social media and said he had been carrying that guilt with him for a while, because you always had like two Husky drivers, and they were like opposite, like this. So one got this side of the road, one got this side of the road, and obviously not right next to each other. So if one blew up, they both got hurt. They were like this. So they both were driving, and then my truck was right here, and, you know, they both made it over it, and then we got cut in half. I to this day, I always told him, like, he was one of the team leaders I looked up to. Like, I loved him. I'd hold no animosity towards him. I want him to move on. I'm fine. I constantly tell people, like, yes, I have the Purple Heart, but all of my wounds have healed up, other than like mental, right? But like, I go to Purple Heart barbecues, and like, there's amputees walking around. You know what I'm saying? There's guys, you know, with blind. There's, you know, his face is scarred from shrapnel. Like, I was very lucky in a sense in my Purple Heart that I was able to recover with, you know, I want to say 6-7 months. So basically, we're driving down Georgia West one day. I'll never forget the song that was playing in the truck. It was kind of, it's always like a trigger for me. Like, none of these bitches love me. You know, it's the old Lil Wayne, you know, Love Me with Drake, you know. And every time I hear that song, I'll never forget that song was like midway through, and then boom. Like, all I remember was, now that my bitch love me, you know, singing the song. We're all like bullshitting like 1 minute, and then getting blown up. And you know, I was a gunner, and thank God I had my harness on because it kept me in the truck. like latched into the truck, thank God, because if not, I maybe would have gotten thrown from the truck. But our truck got blown up, cut in half, and then fell in kind of a ditch, and I kind of rolled out into the grass, but still attached to the truck. Now, platoon sergeant all the way in the back, in the rear, like 3-7 should be. I will never forget how fast he was there. Like we were in pain. We were like freaked out a little bit. We were like, "What is going on?" We heard gunfire. It was kind of an ambush as well. But all of a sudden, I'll never forget my platoon sergeant just pulling me out of the ditch and into the grass. And they set up security, and they started to cordon off the area, and we went into our protocols and procedures of like what we would do after blast. But it was very intense, right? But something I always talk about that saved me is, so I always ate sunflower seeds. So there was like sunflower seeds all over me, and there was blood kind of all over my face and like neck, mostly because the head bleeds, right? So you hit a little cut, like I just got this cut in my head, and like the head just gets covered in blood. It bleeds a lot. So what was crazy though is like, thank God I wore goggles as a gunner, because if I would have had, so basically when I got blown up, my head went like this, boom, and it hit the 50 cal. It was a 50 cal gunner, like right on the 50 cal. Now, if I would have been wearing like my Oakley glasses when I was a dismount, I feel like my glasses would have just shattered in my face, and it would have been way worse than it was. But what was kind of cool was my helmet separated a little up and my goggles separated a little down, and that's when I bashed my head on the 50. So just like this little slit hit the 50 cal really hard, and I just started like leaking, right? So I did have like a nice slit, and then I think I had some shrapnel over here on my right side of my face that I could feel, and then I was like covered in sunflower seeds and blood. And then I ended up on my left knee, I ended up cracking my patella and breaking it in, fracturing it in 2 places. And then, it just like, and then I don't know if you've ever broken anything in your knee, but when you break something in your knee goes stiff. It's actually really weird. It like straightens out and gets really stiff. My driver ended up walking away from it, being fine. The dismounts got rattled, but walking away, doing fine, pulling security. Like my driver ended up getting out of the vehicle and going in like with his saw and pulling security. Like badass, right? Shout out to Samuel Walls. And then our passenger, our TC, our tank commander at the time, or truck commander, if you will, Friedline, he actually ended up breaking his ankle, and his whole like foot was purple, and he was pretty, but I mean, in a sense, hobbled along. And I'll never forget us just like being in the grass, and like me being kind of upset, our doc giving us like both morphine, and going from like instantly scared and in so much pain to like flipping to being like very happy and like, thank God, we're alive. And then we got escorted down to an SF base, and I'll never forget, this is like when it was like so Hollywood, but it was like so cool. And I was like, both of us were like high as a kite at this point on morphine, so we were like happy. But these SF guys come out in their like gray PT shirts. Some of them have Crocs, machine guns. The Delta comes out, he's wearing Crocs and whatever. He's driving us in this like ATV that they put us in that has a Mark 19 on it. Now Mark 19's a 40 mic, pretty much a grenade machine gun for you civilians, and it's mounted on an ATV. I just remember thinking like, these guys are so cool. And they pulled security, and then they got us to the Black Hawk that eventually got us medevac. At the hospital, we felt kind of good during, the medical medic on the bird was taking care of us and seeing us through, and administering like IVs and more morphine, so we were feeling good, cleaning us up blood a little bit. And then by the time we got to the hospital, just your typical, what you would feel like it would go down, like cut the whole uniforms off, cut everything off of us, put us in new clothes. That's when I became a member of or alumni of the Wounded Warrior Project, because they send packages for soldiers to wear like clothes, like it's like basketball shorts, basketball shirt, and they have bags out there that give you stuff so you can wear some clothes in the hospital after you've been treated. But I'll never forget like the base commander, the BC came and gave us coins, and he just wanted to make sure we were okay. And it started to turn into a good experience. And then obviously it was my long road to recovery. I say all that to say this: it's something I don't take lightly. I do know the magnitude of when I've seen pictures of the truck after, and I'll post some here. I do know the magnitude of that bomb. I'll never forget the dismounts. Like so our convoy actually sat there for like another 6 hours, because there was no way they were leaving that truck there, and they had to recover all the pieces, and they sat there forever into the night. I didn't see them until like forever. And I remember one of the dismounts like went into the motor pool and like cut some of the harness off and gave it to me, cut some of the seatbelt, and I put it in a shadow box, because he was like, bro, this seatbelt saved your life. Like I could have gotten flung from the truck, and God knows how many more bones I would have broken, or if I would have died. But I'll just never forget yeah, that feeling. The whole recovery process was hard for me. I was a young kid that was like the PT stud, and I couldn't run forever, and I tried to get back soon and got hurt again. Like, I mean, just thank God you really do make brothers on deployment, because I made really good brotherhood friendships, and they all checked on me and all make sure I was okay when we got back. I got sent home early. You know, they all did 12, I did 10, and months, and they all showed up. You know, when they got back, I was there. You know, I was off crutches, but I was there to like receive them, and I was just so happy to see all of them. And they still like throughout the months helped me like, you know, physically recover and get better. You know, shout out to Jamil, Walls, Donovan, Karabin, like all of them. So yeah, I love my boys, and I'll never forget that day as long as I live. But you know, like I said, you in the end, it's the past. We gotta, you know, learn from it, but we gotta move on. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my Purple Heart story for all of you people asking. Rangers lead the way.